Hey, Mystic Michaela spiritual family. Welcome to Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela. Today, do you have a rebellious aura? We are talking about purple auras and turquoise auras in a deep dive. Perhaps you feel like you don't fit in. Perhaps you feel like you're always on the fringe. Perhaps you don't even want to be part of the bigger thing that's always going on. Let's talk about it today. But first, hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been doing some math. When you told me this was the topic, the rebellious auras, the
rebellious
turquoise,
auras,
the purples. I've been doing the math here. Okay. There's four of us, not including the cats. That's a whole, we're not even going to put the cats into this equation. We're not even going to
put the cats into it.
Okay. So, and we have no tricolors.
Right.
Okay. So we're all 2 colors each.
Yes.
Okay. So that gives you a total of 8 colors.
We're 8 colors in the house.
Right. Total of 8.
Right.
Right. 4 times 2. Okay. We have 3 purples.
Yeah.
3 people that have purple in their aura. That would be you, Abby, and Brie.
Yes.
Okay. We have 1 turquoise.
Yep.
That would be Abby. 1 indigo. That'd be you.
Yeah.
We have 1 blue. That would be me.
Yes.
And then there's 2 reds.
Right.
So that'd be Brie and myself.
Right.
So that makes it up. So percentage-wise, 6 out of the 8 are empath colors. That puts us at 75% empath here.
Yeah.
And 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4 are red, logic color, which is 25%. So 25% of our household is logic, 75 is empath. I suggest everyone at home now quickly get out your calculators and do the math and figure out how much percentage.
Figure out what you got going on.
But figure out your percentages. Let us know.
Right.
So basically, sometimes people say you're outnumbered. I'm out-auraed here.
You are.
I'm totally out-auraed.
It's true.
And I feel there's a rebellion going on.
There is.
And now it makes sense after I've done this quick math.
Yeah.
It's, a purple turquoise rebellion, basically.
I feel like the purple is coming for you.
It is.
Yeah. You don't really stand a shot.
No. I mean, I truly feel that I'm kind of a little bit ganged up on here.
Yes.
And I think it comes out like when I'm trying to put logic to things.
Right.
Where
It's true.
That's where I'm getting outnumbered or whatever.
Yeah.
Out-auraed, I should say.
Out-auraed,
yeah.
Out-auraed.
Right.
That's going to be really hard for you to say.
I can't say that. We'll skip saying that for now.
Okay.
And I feel like, things will be thrown, especially ideas. Ideas will be thrown out there.
Yeah, we love to that's how we talk.
Right. You just throw all this stuff out there.
Right.
And, let's say it's just like plans for the weekend. Or whatever. Sure. Not harmless weekend plans. And there I am because, I got the red logic going on. And as you guys are all shouting these things out, all these plans, in my head, I'm like, how is that ever possibly going to work?
Well, not just that. I feel like we think quicker than you.
Oh, okay.
No, like and that's not to be mean.
Right.
We think quicker because we're not held back by logic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so when I say something, I don't vet it. It's just coming out. And I think that's my purple. And I would say like Abby and Bree, same thing. Like nobody vets it. We're just like, but what if we did this? And what if we did this? What if they met us here? But what if we drove here, but they met us here? But then that happened here. And then we went after. And then we just do that. Do. And nobody's thinking about, I don't know, locations or directions or times or money or anything.
Well, yeah. Well, that's when I'm sitting there and then I'm like logically thinking, how are they possibly going to pull this off? It's impossible to, let's say, do this and that at the same exact time or be here or there. Or like, the one thing is one direction is totally north and the other thing's totally south.
Yeah.
And it's been suggested. And I'm like, how is that going to happen?
I think you sit and you're like, how could you even suggest that? And it's because I feel like when you're purple, I'll get to the turquoises in a minute, but I feel like when you're purple, that is one of the freedoms. You're just spitballing. You're just here, do. I'm not held back by wondering if that makes sense or it would work or whatever. I'll worry about that later. That's how, like when you write a paper, sometimes they say if you're writing, you just write and then you go back later and you spell check it or whatever. Like you don't interrupt the flow. But I feel like what happens with you is you don't have that flow. You sit and then you take it you're just like, oh, what are they doing? What are they coming up with? What are they concocting?
Right.
But then we get excited about it because we're like, yeah.
Well, and that's what exactly. And there's the problem because that's what we'll call the rebellion. in quotes,
Right.
rebellion.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to figure out how to avoid the rebellion.
Because you're like, hey guys, but then like we'll be all excited. We're like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, that's the plan. And then you come in, you're like, that one's north and that one's south. And then we're like, okay. Wow. Way to bring up reality. Go away. And I feel like it's and you don't, it must be hard for you.
But now I feel like you guys have all kind of merged those purple, turquoise colors together. And I really am no match anymore. I feel like I'm slipping here.
Yeah.
And like, as I try to present the logical case, it gets like purpled down. Like all the purple comes out and it just destroys all my logic for what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And it's like 3 on 1. And the kids are starting to get funny now.
They're funny.
They're making
older.
jokes, and you guys are all ganging up on me.
Right.
And then what happens is
Victim blue activated.
Right. That's exactly correct. So the one logic color, well, Bree's got a logic color too, but that one logic color that's trying to hold things in line, hold down the rebellion, is getting squashed by my blue because I'm a little more blue now. So now the blue's kicking in.
The blue to go summer.
And all you guys really need to do is take out a picture of the NASA photos, and it's all over, and you won.
Like, hey, Scott, want to see space?
Yeah, you want to see something in space?
An endless eternity?
At the Crab Nebula is 7 billion trillion gazillion miles away. You are a speck of nothing.
We're driving north and south this weekend, and you're like, okay.
And I'm just like, all right, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, that's what's going on here.
That's what's happening.
All right. So hopefully, what I want you guys to do at home, take an inventory.
Yes.
See what percentages you have of the logic versus the empath colors. And, I don't know, maybe your significant other or you are losing this battle too. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, you're going to deep dive into turquoise and purple.
Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
We all know that home-cooked meals, yes, they're better for you, but I don't always have time to pull it off. But with HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, the shopping, and most of the prep, it is easier than ever for me to get dinner on the table quick and painless. There's no more endless recipe searching or spending money on a whole jar of spices for only a pinch. With HelloFresh, everything I need to make delicious meals comes right to my door. It's pre-portioned and fresh. Plus, they include this step-by-step recipe card I cannot mess up. What do you think there, Scott?
No, I love, I do all the grocery shopping. So I love, you don't have to go to the grocery store. That's one of my favorite parts. The food's fantastic. We have leftovers, a lot of food. We just had the beef flotas supreme the other night. Perfect.
Oh my God,
amazing.
It was so good.
It's great.
The kids gobbled that up.
Yeah, and me.
Yes, and me too. For free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/free KYA. One free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/free KYA. Today, I am deep diving into purple auras and turquoise auras. And I'm calling them the rebellious auras because I would say out of all the aura colors, these two are the ones that like to conform the least. And I would say one of the main differences between the two of them is that purples might know this about themselves a little quicker than turquoises do. But I'm going to go through each aura color. Let's start with purples. Okay, so purple auras. Here's my own thing about purples. When I started seeing purple auras, I noticed that these people that radiated this color were often very creative, naturally psychic, really intuitive, and didn't like to be told what to do. They enjoyed the feeling of rebirth, meaning putting themselves in situations where they could change. And because of that, they might like drama a little bit if they're an unhealed version of themselves, or they might get into toxic situations or relationships or environments a little bit easier. They might slide into those and stay a little longer because they can see them as pseudo contexts where they can change and grow and get rid of things and blow things up or whatever. And I feel like when you become purple, you go through this and then you find different, if you're lucky, you become more self-aware and you find better places in which to work on these parts of yourself and to change and to feel creative. And I think a big thing with purples is they really enjoy a feeling of freedom. And I would say the difference between freedom and free falling can be hard to tell when you are healing and growing and shifting and kind of, becoming more self-aware, working on that part of yourself. Free falling can feel a lot like freedom, but you end up knowing the difference and you figure that out as you go along. So I would say with purples, one of the things that they like to do is poke the bear. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression before. It's kind of just like bug someone, like poke the bear in order to get someone's unhealed parts revealed. All right. However, unhealed parts of yourself as a purple can cause you to do this in an attempt to get somebody else all riled up as an activity in order to bring their vibe to a scattered level so you can dissect them energetically. And if you live with a teenager, you know exactly what that, because it's happening to you. But purples, I feel like they're they know they know how to get under your skin. Like they see it immediately. Like, oh, you don't like when I say that, do you? Or you don't like when that happens, do you? Or you can't handle it when this isn't organized. And it just becomes this craving within the purple aura. Like I need to unravel you. I need to see you just freak out, because as a purple, like you're real good at living in kind of a chaotic situation or watch things blow up, or you can handle that parts of yourself are messy and disorganized, and when other people can't handle that. So you kind of want to like, here, I'm going to poke the bear. I'm going to bug you and I'm going to see you freak out and unravel. And maybe when you put yourself back together, you do it in a way that's more balanced and aligned. It's really the purple aura's way of helping you. But when you're old, as you get older, it can be seen as an immature thing to do. And it's something that as a purple, you have to know you can do so that you use this gift in a good way, not in a passive aggressive way. I mean, I'm purple, so this is not me coming for purples at all. It's just what happens. Example, purple kids really know where your unhealed parts are. They really know what purple kids are extremely psychic. They're extremely intuitive. All kids are in their own ways, but purples really know where you are patching something up instead of really fixing it and doing the work. They just go right to it. And, I know this from, when I was a teacher, that was, the kids will smell fear, and the purple ones will get you right where you need to work on something. So it's definitely a gift of the purple aura. And as you get older in your purple, you can figure out how to do this in a way that helps you and them and the other person. Basically, purples will read you for filth. They have no issues knowing exactly what your thing is, and they're pretty good at not just saying it out loud, but also doing things that get you to react in the way that you're probably trying not to react. And that can be a purple thing. Now, I'm raising 2 purple aura kids, so I'm adding this to this segment, to this podcast episode. I'll do it for turquoises too, but I'm going to call it Raising a Purple. This is what we're working on, and I'm working on it with myself too, because I'm purple. There is a way in which you work, okay? And you work differently than other kids. This is what I'm trying to tell my kids who are purple. I know you want to have the project that's perfect, or the room that looks like the one on television, or the party that ended up exactly like the one that you saw on the TikTok you were watching. But showing them your strengths might be more in adaptability and creativity versus perfection. And I'm also raising a purple. I'm also telling them that, you get feelings from other people all the time, and that can feel like anxiety. You pick up a lot of energy from other people, and you can't always do anything about it. So sometimes it feels like anxiety. So it's understanding that other people's vibes that sometimes are really negative, or sometimes they might be actually really positive, they're just not matching yours. You can feel it as, a buzz in you, like anxiety. And you can have lots of great ideas, which overwhelm you. This is another thing I'm telling them. And you're going to get flooded with ideas all the time when you're a purple aura. And just because you can't do them all, or you sit for a second, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, those are great ideas, but I have no idea how to execute one of them, can make you feel like a failure before you've even begun. And also I'm telling them that mistakes are our teachers, and that's really for everyone, but purples really need to get used to it because, the question is, after a mistake, what did I learn? Because you're gonna make mistakes. Purples make a lot of mistakes. I wouldn't even call them mistakes. I would just say lots of very varied experiences. And purples throw themselves into things quicker. They don't, they can't, they learn best by just throwing themselves in. I'll just try it. Let's see how that goes. Or I'm just going to throw myself into it. When you do something like that, because that's how you work best, you're going to look silly to other people sometimes, or you're going to have to do it twice, or you're going to, oh, wait a second. Okay, I learned everything by doing it wrong. Now let me start again. You might have to start again. And that's okay. Like, the world won't end. So that is my raising a purple advice. And hopefully that helps you too. And finally, I'm going to have to get into this at some point on some other episode, but purples aren't organized the way other people are. And you know what? I'm going to stop it right there because that's a whole episode and I could do every single aura color. So I'll just put a pin in that. But that is another thing. Like, you aren't able to organize yourself the way other people organize themselves. And there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you don't have to label yourself as there's something wrong with you. You just have to work around it. All right. So we asked the MMSF, the Mystic Michaela spiritual family, some questions. And I asked the purples and the turquoises some questions, but let's talk about the purples first. So what do you want? What makes you light up? All of you were very friends, adventure, change, experience. Yeah, like purples love new things. They love to try new things. They love to just have a break from routine. And they like sharing present moment experiences with fun people. Then we asked, what do you wish people knew? All right, so purples. Routine drains you and it drains your mental health. Agendas, schedules, itinerary, it makes your skin crawl. It's not for you. I think scatterbrained is something that you might feel when you're purple. I know I do. It doesn't mean you're not focused, okay? It just means you focus differently than other people. You're focused on a lot of things all at once. Purples the world is coming for purples, man. Because I see it, self-diagnosing, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I have ADHD. I mean, maybe you do, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm also saying just because you don't think the way everyone else tells you you're supposed to think doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I think all at once, all the time. It's never gotten in the way of me, I guess, learning or going to school or getting stuff done. So I wouldn't call mine something that I would need to be diagnosed with an issue about, but I would call it my purple. And I would say that this is honestly how spirit jumps in and talks to me. So when I'm on a train of thought that's more like a carousel of thought, it's like do, like all the way around, things pop in and things pop out. And that is how I get messages from spirit. This is how I get my creative inspiration. This is how I get insight. And this is how I talk to myself. And it's more about when you're purple, how you think and working around it so that you can, function with the rest of us without being too much of an imposition, meaning don't be late or, try not to forget things or remember everything you have to take with you to the DMV, like as long as you know this about yourself, you'll be fine. You don't have to change how you think. You just got to work with how you think. I've talked about this before, my own executive functioning issues because I get sidetracked really easy. It's really hard for me to do a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, cooking or planning a party or putting things together. It's just really difficult for me. And I've just decided, you know what, that's just how I am. If I know how I am, I can plan accordingly without trying to change myself. Anyways, I think purples need to have a little more self-acceptance for themselves. The other thing purples want you to know is they're not dramatic. They just have a lot of feelings and they're able to talk about them freely. A lot of you may have been labeled, if you're purple, oh, that's Susan, she's the dramatic one. That's, or when you're just, like your role in the family is drama. When you're just sitting and crying about something, or you're like, oh, this is hard for me, or you're just saying something, you can get labeled as dramatic when you're just the one that tends to talk more about feelings than everyone else, or be able to articulate what's going on, or you have stronger reactions than other people do. It can be labeled as a negative thing. So you're not dramatic. You're just talking about it a little bit more than other people might be talking about it. I think purples want you to know that sometimes they just know things. They don't know how they know things, but they know that they're right. And when you're purple, that confidence, when you meet your friend's boyfriend and you're like, no, like that is truer than anything. That is a law of physics. Like when you all of a sudden are like, he's not the one, sister, like you just know it. And there's no explaining how you know it, but you just know that you're right. And then one day everybody else catches up with you and you're like, yeah, that's what I said day one, 6 years ago. Okay. And here we are, but whatever. Don't listen to me. That's just purple. Changing your mind may seem instantaneous, but it's just you following your emotional pivots. Emotions are your compass. Literally, this is how you navigate the world through your emotions. It's not, quote, logic. Emotions have become your logic, and that's just how you work. So the more you spend understanding it about yourself and clearing up your emotions so that they are more fed by spirit rather than negative programming and trauma and the stuff that you don't want them to be led by, you'll do better. That's why therapy's great and self-work's great and shadow work's great and all this stuff's great. Because if you're going to be led by your emotions, you got to keep them pristine if they're the ones that are moving you around. You cannot deal with micromanaging when you're purple. You just cannot do it. You can't. And if somebody tells you to do something, even if you were going to do it, now you don't want to do it. It's just the truth. And you already know this about yourself. That's the thing with purples. Like, you already know this about yourself. Purples can't. They can't stay in a space where they're being micromanaged. That's why when I see someone who's purple, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, they're going to follow the purple. So a lot of you have kids and you're worried about your kid, being with somebody in a relationship that's not good for them or in a job that's not good for them. And it's like, if they're purple, they'll figure it out. And one day they'll just leave and it'll be up to them to do it, but they'll do it. Because when you're purple, that's how it works. Purples have a need. They have a need to show you that you really do need to chill out by being the most annoying and unstructured person in your life. Like, the more unchill you are, the purple aura is going to counteract that in an attempt to get you to freak out. It's like poke the bear thing again. Creativity isn't always related to art. Purples are creative, but they can be creative with their intuition, with problem solving, with living life, with creating meaning in life. I mean, purples also know that none of this is real and that nobody else seems to see that. Like, purples from, you can be a young purple kid and be like, whoa, you've just always had a knowing that there's more to this than what they're telling me. And it's just that nagging little feeling. Sometimes being a purple, just being raised in a religion or just any sort of, structure where everyone's like, this is how it is. There's only one, there's that little nagging energy telling you, but maybe it's not, and that's just purple. Purples know when you're lying because they read vibes very well, very easily. And they do tend to mic drop. They mic drop truth on you, meaning they'll just tell you something kind of straight up without a lot of premise. And that doesn't mean that they don't love you. They love you a whole lot, but they're going to do it by way of a mic drop. All right. So what do purples feel during a crisis? They can feel very emotional. They can have a lot of creative solutions. It can go back and forth. Remember, purples can be a lot of different things at once. Purples are better on the fly rather than planning for a crisis. That saying, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I think that's a purple thing to say. That is not a yellow aura thing to say. That is a purple aura thing to say. It depends on the crisis. Okay. It depends what the crisis is. If it's a crisis that isn't too horrific, crisis can invigorate a purple aura. They can feel alive. They can work well under it. I mean, there's a reason a lot of EMTs are purple. I see, you know, they just work well in these high pressure situations. There's a reason why a lot of people in the food service industry are purple, like these high pressure, like think of the show The Bear, like in that kitchen, like that is a purple world right there, you know, like intense, like they can handle that. And then the thing with purples is they can get addicted to that feeling. They can get addicted to that crisis vibe. And then it's really hard to come down for them after drama or stress or crisis. They kind of feel more comfortable in it. And this is true for a lot of people, especially if you grew up in a certain way. You can get more comfortable in situations that remind you of the crisis you were raised in. But purples tend to, no matter what, have this already as a draw for them. So if you're purple, you got to watch it double. And purples are very self-critical. Did I do that right? Is that the right thing to do? You know, all that. All right. During a joyful moment, purples are very present, spontaneous, free, non-judgmental, and a little impulsive. And they've lots of gratitude. They can be very present in that. And what keeps the purples up tonight? What are they thinking about? What's causing them not to sleep? Just, am I repeating negative cycles? You know, what is like they truly don't have plans. So they have a lot of anxiety about what did I forget? Or what am I not remembering? Or what did I not realize? I mean, they've been in so many situations where they forgot something so completely obvious. This is a true fear. And that does keep them up. And then purples on the page were saying that they make, and I do this too, so I thought this was so great, like concession plans for this very thing. Like, all right, I leave spare money in the car. I have spare keys around my house. I stash, you know, important papers in multiple places in case I forget where one stash is, you know, and whatnot. When I come back, I'm going to talk about purples and purple bombs because we need to clarify what that is. I had this subscription for storage on my phone. I wasn't even using it, but I didn't know how to cancel it. And I just procrastinated. And I was never going to figure it out. But guess what Rocket Money did? Rocket Money canceled my subscription for me. Otherwise, that would have been such a time-consuming and confusing thing to happen. I mean, can you name every single subscription you have? I know I can't name all of mine, and I'm not alone. I just learned that over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. With Rocket Money, I don't have to remember every subscription or worry about forgetting any because I can see them all laid out right in front of me. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/KYA. That's rocketmoney.com/KYA. rocketmoney.com/KYA. Purple bombs is a term I came up with because I saw purples doing something. And what I saw, and by the way, episode 44, way back, we talk all about purple bombs, like in detail. But a purple bomb is basically when you try to get out of a life situation and you don't know how to do it. So you plant all these subconscious little bombs places so that when your life blows up, it's kind of like you did it, but you did it in little pieces. And when I say blow up, I mean, it blows up bad. Like it blows up to the point where there's no going back. And you usually know you did a purple bomb when you look back and you're like, oh, this is really all my fault. And I did this because I felt like I couldn't get out of it any other way than to just make it explode. And purple bombs are usually extremely embarrassing to talk about. They're usually the most shadowy version of yourself. And when you tell the wrong people about it, you're going to get shamed and judged, purple shamed a lot, because it's something that a lot of people can relate to, but they don't know how to, I guess, deal with it in themselves so they can really get on you about it. What's an example of a purple bomb? I would say like an example of a purple bomb, and here's like the quintessential purple bomb. Let's say you're in a marriage and you don't want to be married anymore to your partner. And this partner isn't like a horrific person, so you don't quite know what to do. Like, this person isn't awful. They're not great. It would actually be a lot easier if they were some sort of villain, but they're not. And you feel like this is super subconscious, but you feel like a jerk. You're like, I can't leave him. If I leave him, I'm the jerk. Like, you don't know how to get out of it. So what you do is you start planting little bombs. Little bombs could be, oh, I reconnected with an old boyfriend. Oh, we're texting now. Oh, I'm saying I'm going on a girls' trip, but I'm actually going to meet him where he lives, and we're just going to hang out for the weekend together. So there's like these little bombs, right? Okay, we're holding hands in this new city. I met his friend. You're more bombs. Now other people know. Now could be photographic evidence. Now there's text evidence. Now the phone record can show. Now you're lying about where you went. Little things like that. And then one day you left your phone out, something, or the bill comes in the mail for something on your credit card, and you get confronted, and it just blows up. Boom, it blows up. And would you have been the jerk if you said, hey, I want a divorce. This isn't working for me? Maybe you would have. Are you the jerk when this all comes to light and you've been cheating and you've done all this stuff? Absolutely. So that's a purple bomb. And my thought about this is when we're purple and we do this, it's about leaving a situation and feeling that you need to be punished for it. So I would say, like, the bigger the bomb, the more punishment you feel like you deserve for leaving a situation. And I hope that makes sense. So it's a very layered thing. And that was like a very, I guess, like heavy example of it. There's like little examples too. Sometimes it's just quitting a job or like breaking up with a best friend or something like that. There's other examples too. But purple bombs definitely are something that purples do. And I get a lot of questions, from people who understand this. They're like, oh, a couple things. Can something good come out of a purple bomb? It depends on the purple bomb. I feel like the more mature you get, the more self-aware you get, the more shadow work you do, the less you need to plant a bomb in order to make your life change. You just use your words, like, this isn't working for me and we're done now. Like, you use your words, and then you don't need a purple bomb. You don't need to do that anymore. You don't have to punish yourself to move on from one context to another. There's no need to punish yourself, but I feel like purple bombs are a product of this world telling you that you're not allowed to change it up. And then purples, get on themselves about it. Again, these aren't, as I always like to say on here, aura colors aren't excuses, but they do explain behavior. So that's purple bomb. Just wanted to go over that because I get that question a lot. Okay, we asked purples, what does the perfect day look like? A lot of you said iced coffee, Somebody said a break in Groundhog's Day. I thought that was so good. No routine, like something different. No structure, TV, music, and food. I mean, purples definitely know how to enjoy life. And I just wanted to talk about quiet purples versus loud purples, because some of you are purple, and I'll talk about, okay, purples are the first to dance at the wedding, or they're the ones on the bar tops at the bar dancing, or they're the first one to make a move on the person they like, and some of you purples are like, that's super not me. I'm none of those things. But you could be a quiet purple. I would say, like, quiet purples are just really good at masking their overtly purple traits. They've been so burned by being purple that they have become a little bit more extra cautious. So they know, like, okay, I'm not having that third cocktail. Like, they're kind of good like that. Or I'm going to make sure I'm 10 minutes early to everything. Otherwise I'll be late. I don't like being late. Or they plan ahead. They keep their mouths shut. They think a little bit more before they speak. I'm sorry. They keep their thoughts and insights to themselves. And the louder purple sometimes can give them an eye roll, or like, oh God, that's because it's everything they work not to be. So they just are they keep it more in their head. Like, there's a running purple commentary just in their brains instead of out loud. But yeah, purples. All right. So let's talk about turquoises. All right. Turquoises are, let's talk about my insights with them. They are, so when I was seeing auras, you don't see turquoises as often as you see like blues, for example. So I would see this wispy, turquoise color coming off of people. And these people felt a little bit more wispy to me. Like they could blend in and out of situations. They got kind of like a shape-shifty vibe in a way. Like, am I this person and am I that person? Not in a manipulative way, not in like an evil way at all. Just in kind of a, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. Just very absorbent and accepting through their energy. And they were just like really fluid with their aura. Their aura even looked fluid. And it felt like they did this to understand other people and understand other contexts. And so my insight with turquoises have always been the mirror. That's what I talk about with the turquoises. So what does a mirror do? When you look in a mirror, you look in it and it tells you, oh, you got something in your teeth. Or, you see, oh, I need some makeup over here. I should do my hair. You see what you look like. Sometimes you don't like what you look like. Sometimes you look in the mirror, you're like, ew, ugh. And it like triggers a lot of your own issues. And that's what turquoises do. They're kind of like a mirror. And when you kind of interact with them, you can start seeing parts of yourself. They're like, ugh. And like, let's say you looked in a mirror and you didn't like what you looked like. Would you break the mirror? Well, turquoises get that a lot from people. People will have a correspondence with them, a relationship with them, and they don't like how they're being reflected back by the turquoise. How does a turquoise reflect somebody back? They can start to say things or show you things or start mimicking your behavior back to you. Or they can start picking up on what bugs you, kind of like the purple. They'll start picking up on what bugs you in an attempt to get you to show yourself. Difference between purples and turquoises is purples know exactly what they're doing when they start to try to bug you. Turquoises don't. They're just doing it. And they're like, why are you mad at me? Where purples are like, yeah, I know why you're mad at me. Like that. So that's the difference, I would say. But yeah. So when turquoises have a relationship with somebody, sometimes it'll just blow up because someone can't stand themselves and they'll take it out on the turquoise. And I was noticing a lot about where turquoise is at. However, I will say this about turquoises. So turquoises, when you're kind of an unhealed turquoise or you're not self-aware yet, or you're getting to a place where you're still trying to figure things out, it can cause you to blame others for your own poor choices on the mirror aspect of your personality. Meaning, you can do something like you can have poor behavior with somebody and then you'd be like, well, that's not my fault. I just triggered their issues. And you can keep blaming their, your own bad behavior on others when people are just responding to your behavior, if that makes sense. So they can blame it on, okay, well, that's your insecurity. I didn't do anything wrong. Or I just mirrored myself. I just mirrored you to you. So that's a you problem, not a me problem. So they can kind of put that on other people and blame another person instead of take a minute and use some insight. With turquoises, what I notice is they can have a really hard time with personal responsibility. Sometimes they're not owning that they need to look at themselves too. And it's not just you going through life, I just show people everyone. It's not and I just get victimized for it. Like, that's not exactly how it's working. It's like, how am I responsible for how I'm encroaching others' boundaries or how I'm creating reactions in other people, or am I listening to what they have to tell me too? And I notice that turquoises sometimes, especially when they're not working on their shadow work stuff so much, can have a hard time accepting blame, being in the wrong, or finding it a way to actually see something that they have to improve in themselves. And another thing I noticed with turquoise is they don't mean to be, but sometimes they can be accused of being copycats. And if you have a little sibling, if you're an older one, and you have a sibling, you know what that's like. Imitation's the best form of flattery, but sometimes when you're friends with a turquoise and you're adults, it's like, it can look more like single white female. Like, what? This is freak. Like, stop, you know, like that. And it can kind of scare you a little bit, but it's just their way of, I don't know, just trying to relate to you by doing things that you do. And I think with turquoises, the more they understand that they can do this, and the more they understand that this is something they have to work on, the more that they can use this mirror quality in them to actually be the healer that they're meant to be. Because a lot of turquoise are in the healing world, the spiritual world, you know, the spiritual guidance world, because of that quality, when they know how to use it really well. All right, so here's my raising a turquoise, because I do have a turquoise kid. Big thing we're working on is, I know you didn't mean to, but you still upset the other person. And now don't talk and sit there and deal with that. It's kind of like, yes, I validate that wasn't your intention, but it still upset your sister. You know, you got it. You have to sit with that now. You know, so it's just zip it, sit with it, accept personal responsibility. That's like a big thing I'm working on. But I think all kids you work on but just, it is a turquoise thing. I guess, another thing I'm working with my turquoise is, other people will always have opinions, all right? And you'll always feel them, and you'll not know where theirs begins and yours begins and theirs ends and all that. It gets all meshed up with your own mindset, and it can make you feel very stuck in what to do because you feel them. So it's really important to think about what we want to do before we go with someone else's vision. It's just really hard, I notice, for my turquoise kiddo to, just have their own opinion. Because they think it'll upset somebody, or they're like, now I don't know what I want. And they can get very stuck in that. And it could be just a simple thing, like, what do I want for dinner? Or what color do I want my bedspread to be? Or just anything. Another thing we're working on with turquoises over here is you got to, self-advocacy. You got to go speak up. I'm not going to call the teacher. You got to go walk up to her and talk to her yourself. And also don't let someone interrupt you. Like, excuse me, I was speaking. So it's really hard because you want to go do that for your kid, but I'm working on with my turquoise kiddo to do that for herself. And I feel like that's a big thing that turquoises end up learning. And then just like anything, when it's one thing when you're like, my kid's age 9, it's okay to make, more socially acceptable, let's say, to make these little mistakes where you might have an outburst about it or start crying or say like, hey, I was talking like really loud or something. But when you're 28 and working on this, people can look at you like, oh, but give yourself grace. If you're working on this and you're an adult, you are allowed to take your time. And it's okay if sometimes you get a little emotional while you're doing it, because it might be something that you haven't worked on when you were young. So you might go through the stages of it where it can look a little funny to other people. But being interrupted is a big deal, and not being seen and feeling invisible and people not listening to you, very much a turquoise trait. And then it can kind of trigger you to shout really loud, to deal with it. What else? You don't have to fix everything. That's another thing we're working on over here with my turquoise. Turquoises sense everything, and they're like, oh. And I guess blues and indigos will feel this too. Like, I have to fix everything. Sometimes yellows as well. I have to fix everything. I have to fix that. Oh, you're having a problem. I have to fix it. I would say turquoises have the hardest time with awareness that your problem isn't my problem, but I have a choice whether to help you or not with it. I think they have the hardest, the fuzziest boundary between themselves and others. So it's harder to know that. Yeah. And then, here's my bonus of having a turquoise or a kid. She loves her a hand-me-down. Man, a lot of you probably have kids. They're like, I don't want hand-me-downs. I don't want my sister's clothes. I don't want this, or if you were the little, the youngest or something, maybe you hated hand-me-downs. Well, I would say turquoises, at least mine, love hand-me-downs. They're like, you wore it? Oh, it's extra cool now. Like that. Loves it. Do you agree? Like, isn't just telling me that, actually would prefer hand-me-downs to new clothes. I think that's been great for me. All right, when I come back, I'm going to talk about what turquoises want in life and more. Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela is sponsored by BetterHelp. what's something that you'd love to learn? You know, as adults, we don't always make time to learn new things as often as we'd like. Kids are always learning and growing. I see that with my own kids, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. And with therapy, it's a way that you can reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. I've benefited from therapy in my life. Lessons from sessions long ago are things I still use today. It's been positive for coping skills and learning how to set boundaries, and it's empowered me to be the best version of myself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/KYA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/KYA. What do turquoises want? What makes them light up? Asked the Turks over on the MMSF page. Oh my gosh, you guys, in water, which I feel like it was just a lot of, that's what I want. I want water and a lot of like connection and people to understand where they're coming from. I think a lot of intention with turquoises, what makes them light up, when people understand where they're coming from, when people understand their intentions. What do you wish people knew? Turquoises want you to know that they're a mystery to themselves too. You know, like they're still figuring themselves out as well. Turquoises say they'll find differences with people before commonalities. Like they can focus like, oh, we're different this way. And they get really interested in how they're different. And I feel like with turquoises, the differences among us really interest them because it feels like something new. So when you're turquoise, you have such a like a fuzzy boundary in your aura. Your boundaries are very light, and they're very translucent and they're very permeable. So it's easy to feel in accordance with other people or commonalities. So I feel like when they feel a difference, like, oh my God, this is so different than how I am. Oh, that's so interesting, you know, and they just want to run over there and be like, what is it? What is it? What is it? You know, like, oh, let's study it. Now, when a turquoise does this to you, you can be like, why are you honing in on the thing that I'm insecure about? You know, why are you honing in on the thing that I'm like, I'm not super cool with, you know? So some people can take that the wrong way when they're really just interested in what makes you different. They just like that. And I do notice with turquoises, they love different people. They love different friend groups. They love an eccentric friend group. They love that. Okay. They like when you're different. They have no problem with differences. Turquoises want you to know that borrowing joy is something that they're working on so that they can find their own. You know, I talk about that a lot with with like blues. Blues do this too, and turquoises like the borrow joy. There's a difference between borrowing joy and cultivating your own joy. And turquoises, like blue auras, do have to learn how to cultivate their own joy, but it's something that they're working on. They don't really have boundaries to others' feelings, emotions, and issues. So they're right there with you. They are right there with you. And that can be something that can make other people a lot less lonely, which is very nice. Every relationship is intense. Turquoises want you to know. Every single relationship is just so intense. It's just kind of like an inundation of other people's energy upon you and you upon them. Being the center of attention can be really rough for a turquoise. Again, it's all that energy just inundating their own. And the other thing with turquoises is they want you to know that they can be a little shy. I noticed that with my own kiddo. It's kind of like they have to acclimate. like turquoises have to acclimate before they participate. So when you walk into a new vibe, it's kind of like, whoa, it's like feeling like, whoa, okay, hang on. What's going on here? Hold on. And you almost can see like their energy shifting and merging and molding and being like, okay, whoa, it's a lot, you know, before they kind of walk into it. And what that can look like is somebody standing a little bit to the side of everybody and staring. And that's not them being rude or anything. They're just kind of taking it in. But again, I think what turquoise is overall, they get a lot of crap for being a bit awkward socially. And this is something that they're aware of. So so it can be, an insecurity, like, and then it doesn't help when you call them out on it. So it's better just to let them acclimate. And then if you are a turquoise, understand, like, I have to acclimate. No big deal. I'm going to give myself a minute. I'm going to acclimate before I walk into the room or the group or I join or whatever. But yeah. And I don't know. I noticed this with turquoise too. They have kind of a stare, like a turquoise stare. They just kind of like stare. They stare at you. And it's because I have a turquoise. I love the turquoise stare. I think it's, I don't know. I got to point it out. I don't know. I got to point it out in other people. They just kind of look, and it's just, I don't know. They're just acclimating. They're just like taking it all in. But again, when people don't understand that, they can label you as weird or they can label you as awkward, and you're not. But man, that is something that can really, a lifetime of that can make you believe it, that you're weird and awkward. So you're not. Okay. Turquoises want you to know they're very protective of others. That is so true. Like, throw all the shy, awkward, I need a moment stuff out the window. When they're protecting somebody, forget it. They will go full force. Don't interrupt them, especially the healed turquoises. They will shut that down. Do not interrupt. I was speaking. Do not interrupt me. And I love it. I'm here for it. They just want you to know they're a little different than other people. But that's good. Different's good. They can't just pick one side. They see all perspectives, and it's hard to know which one is correct. They want you to know there's a lot of different versions of me that you can meet. Yeah, there's a lot of different versions. And they might have a different version for every friend group that they have. And that's okay. It's just kind of, there's the soul identity, which is constant. And then there are little different versions of themselves that come out in different ways. Turquoises go through phases. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone goes through phases. I would say turquoises go through a lot of phases. So, and here's this thing. Turquoises love a tattoo. But I'm going to tell you, be careful of your phases. This is me where I get like grandma on you for a second. I'm like, be careful about what you choose because you might get sick of the phase. Or put it somewhere where if you're over that phase, you can move on from it and not hate it. Anyways, that's my grandma / mom advice to you about that, because you might have different artsy phases or intellectual phases or genre phases. You don't know. It's normal for the turquoise to have a lot of different lives. Very direct. They're very honest. Don't ask unless you want to know. They don't really know sometimes. I think with turquoises, they're just like, because they do that mirror thing, they'll just say the thing you thought you were hiding really well. And you're just like, whoa, it can kind of catch you off guard if you're not prepared for it. They want you to know that they match your personality, your tone, your vibe, your language. I'll start to mirror you. It can freak some people out. They want you to know that. They want you to know that they can feel socially awkward. They can seem standoffish. They're just regulating their vibe. This is what she said on the thread. I noticed this with turquoises. I added this one. They can get over things really. They actually do forgive and forget a lot easier than other people. It's just kind of like, okay. And they'll just kind of move on. And you're just like, all right. And they really can squash something, which I think is nice. I think it's their fluidity of self. They don't, they can move on. They can move on when something's flushed out and we had our conversation, they can move on. Yeah. And counterpoints that they mention are not meant to upset you. They just, again, like to focus on differences or things they notice that aren't consistent with what you said or things like that. And they do have to watch out for other boundaries, because sometimes they can feel them out and enter other people's boundaries without permission, and sometimes they get backlash for it. So I would say, and I noticed this when I would see turquoise auras, they have curious little energies. Like the energies kind of move into other people's. They kind of move in. It's kind of like going into somebody's house without knocking, And so the way that people feel this is they're like, oh, like you didn't ask, so other people, depending on who they are and if they don't know you, get out, and you can get that kind of reaction from someone. So it's just, if you know that about yourself, that you have a curious little vibe, and when people are starting to push back, it's just, oop, I better restart, take it slower, knock first, which means, hi, let's get to know each other. Let's talk a little bit, take it back a notch, take it back a notch, because you can't get backlash when you kind of wander in other people's energies. That's the thing with turquoise, is you're supposed to be doing healing and energy work so that you can go into people's energies and you have permission. It's a lot easier to be turquoise and work with somebody and be like, okay, we're going to sit down for a session to talk about, XYZ, whatever that you're into, and that person gives you permission to do it. It's easier for you as a turquoise because you know that your energy is welcomed and asked for and helpful, and it's easier for the other person because they've given permission and they're ready. So that is why I see a lot of you go into light working stuff. How do turquoises feel during a crisis? This was fascinating to me. A lot of you said that you pretend there's no crisis. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. It's like, what crisis? We're good. Like that. And we have to explore that a little more. And I'd love to see you guys talk more about that on the page, because I think that that's really fascinating. But a lot of turquoises say they panic in the moment, but then they learn how to keep it under the surface quickly after that. Yeah, so a lot of kind of like, I'm going to balance myself out so I don't stress other people out. And we asked turquoises, hey, how do you feel during a joyful moment? I loved this. They said, a lot of you talked about kind of soaking it up. I soak it up and kind of saving it for later, like a joy storage thing. I thought that was really cool. Like I soak it up, I keep it, and I use it later when I need it. And I thought that was really interesting. And we asked turquoises, hey, what keeps you up at night? Plans for the next day. What am I doing with my life? Who am I? That's a big thing with turquoises. I've always seen them have a bit of an identity crisis. The third dimensional world, the 3D world, does tell us all we have to kind of, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, done. You're it. And then you do that your whole life and then you die, And I think every single one of us, we don't work that way. But turquoises, they have a really hard time with identity, like because they shift and they change and they evolve and they kind of blend and they move so much that their identity is fluidity. Their identity is that, that is your identity. Like that is who you are. But it can keep you up at night. Like, how does that translate into paying my electric bill? Like, how does that translate into getting a salary? How does that translate so that I can survive in this world? And I see that, that keeps you up at night, these turquoises. Also with turquoises, why did this happen? Hard time pinpointing what happened, like some sort of interaction with somebody or something that didn't go well. What happened? How did we get here? I don't understand what I did or what they did or what the problem is. It's hard to find closure sometimes for a turquoise because they're kind of everywhere all at once. So it's hard to figure out what happened. And I think like other energies maybe have an easier time understanding like, oh, that person's perspective was XYZ, which went against what I did. And then, because when everything's kind of blended together, when you're a turquoise, it can be hard to kind of differentiate your point of view from somebody else's point of view. So I think that can keep them up at night too, not having closure about, what really happened in some sort of situation on a 3D level. What does the perfect day look like? Again, all of you were talking about water and then a lot of their own routine. I just think turquoises are a busy little bee. They do like to, they have their little routine. A lot of you mentioned nature and yoga, meditation, stretching, thrifting, having your little, whatever your day looks like. You guys have your little varied routines, but you're busy. You are busy. And a lot of you talked about grounding. And I think that that's important for all of us, but with turquoises especially, because especially when it's hard because you're shifting and moving and you're so fluid, connecting with nature is a constant, and allowing that to root up inside of you and to feel connected that way helps you feel less feather on the wind about things. It makes you feel more connected to source. So grounding in nature, in the foods you eat, and healing practices. I've talked about this before, but turquoises, I notice, have such a tough time with just like food allergies. I mean, I'm super not a doctor. Let it be known, not a doctor, not an expert. This is all energy, not to be taken as medical advice, 100%. But I just see with turquoises, they can get reactions to food, reactions to chemicals, I mean, it's not good for any of us, but man, turquoises, their bodies seem to scream a little louder than the rest of us. And another thing about turquoises, and I would love to hear from you, because as a mom of a turquoise, this is something I've dealt with. Your bodies work. This is going to sound crazy. Are you guys like more bendy or something? Because like I noticed with my own turquoise kiddo, like her body works differently. All these like weird little I don't know, contradictive things, like little joint issues or back issues or twisty issues or skin issues or eye issues, or I call it bendy. Like, why are you following rules? Like, what is this? So I'd love to hear about that from you guys, if that's something that you've experienced as a turquoise too. And let's continue this conversation over on the Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family Facebook page, because as always, your conversations as purples and turquoises, you guys have a lot to say, and hopefully this sparked even more conversation and you can add to the threads that we already have up there. Every once in a while, it is time for my everything shower. It is the ultimate self-care ritual, and leveling up my game in there, that's important to me. And I was able to do that with Osea's new Undaria Algae Body Wash. It is a must-have addition to your shower routine. It turns it into a tropical paradise with its iconic, all-natural, uplifting, citrusy scent. Trust me, you want your everything shower infused with the healing power of the sea, formulated with nourishing, nutrient-rich Undaria seaweed, glycerin, and an oil blend. Let me tell you about Osea's new Undaria Algae Body Wash. It has a gel-like texture. It makes a beautiful, rich lather, and it smells divine. It has upgraded not only my shower routine because of how well it works, but also the smell. It is so citrusy and natural, and it's left me feeling cleansed and hydrated. It leaves my skin soft, smooth, revitalized. It's a gentler cleansing experience than traditional body washes. And I love pairing it with the iconic and uplifting citrusy scent as the best-selling Undaria Algae Body Oil, which I'll put on right after I use the Undaria Algae Body Wash in the shower. Upgrade your shower with clean, vegan face and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code KYA at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use code KYA for 10% off. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
All right. There's of course, a couple things I forgot to mention. One of them being career for purples and turquoises. So I feel like overall, if I had to compare and contrast the purples and the turquoises, they are definitely both rebellious energies. I would say that purples don't always feel like they fit in, but they're usually accepted by groups. And I would say that turquoises really try to fit in, but they're not always accepted by groups and they can feel left out. So I find that to be kind of how that applies in career as something that can really affect them. So with purples, for example, I'll see them, I say this all the time, you can't really do a 9 to 5 when you're purple because of the monotonous routine and the feeling of being, stuck in the same day over and over again, and also having too much authority. So I feel like with purples, they quit and they get hired a lot. They career jump a ton in their life. That's actually normal for purples to do that. With turquoises, I feel like they do that a bit less because they can really commit to something and get into something and get in there. But I feel like that they always don't feel seen to be leveled up or promoted or taken to the next space that's beneficial for them wherever they're working. So I feel like it's harder for them to be noticed when they are in a job. And because of that, I feel like both purples and turquoises do really well with starting their own thing or doing their own thing in some way. I talked about this a little bit with turquoises, that I always see them doing really well in lightworking situations. I'll see turquoises doing really well in kind of the pseudoscience things. Like I'll see them in acupuncture. I've talked about this. My dentist was a turquoise when we had that old dentist. I see them as healers. I'll see them as Reiki professionals. I'll see them as massage therapists or people that work in the spiritual guidance realms. And purples too, I'll see them kind of, but sometimes in beauty or cosmetology or esthetician or doing something where they're working for themselves in a creative capacity, graphic designers, things like that. Yeah. And then in love, just talking about purples and turquoises, they both get really intense with their relationships. Turquoises get really, really intense. And it can be just based on what we talked about earlier, their ability to mesh boundaries and their ability to really see somebody by becoming them and reflecting them or whatnot can be really hard to separate yourself. It's hard for anybody after a breakup to separate yourself. But I feel like turquoises, they might need a little bit more time afterwards. And I would also say with turquoises, very easy to live with. Turquoises are real great roommates. They're good in small spaces. Like if you want to live with somebody, I would live with a turquoise. They kind of just like roll with it. They're pretty easy that way. Purples, maybe not so much. Like a turquoise, like if you're neat, they'll be neat. If you're messy, they'll be messy. They'll kind of go with the flow of the home.
Right.
Purples are their own. They're going to be what they're going to be. So I feel like, with the purple in love, I get that they have intense relationships too. But I mentioned this before when I was talking, you don't have to worry about them so much. So during a breakup, like they're going to have their time, but they can also enjoy that time where they're like, oh my gosh, who am I? I'm reinventing myself. I'm rebuilding myself, Phoenix from the flames after the situation. But both, I would say, need a lot of communication and they love a lot of, I guess, big spiritual conversations. So I just forgot to mention that before, and I wanted to bring that up before we moved on.
Okay. Well, that is a big fear of mine. Once they're too young yet.
Yes.
But once they start falling in love.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to have a lot of problems.
No, I know.
I feel them already.
I know you do.
Yeah.
It's okay. They're just babies.
Yeah.
And love is great. It's wonderful to be in love. It's wonderful for that. Oh my gosh.
We got years to go on
We
that.
do.
Yeah. Hopefully.
We do.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know what? Let's call overtime.
Let's
call overtime.
Rules of overtime.
All right. You want to explain the rules of overtime?
You can go.
All right. So basically, yes, you can leave now.
Yes.
It is on you.
It's on you.
Anything that we say at this point,
yes,
going forward, that's on you.
It's on you.
So if we say something bad, that's on you. You stayed. You are allowed to go now.
Yes.
It was actually funny. Someone wrote a review the other day of the podcast.
Yeah.
And they said, I've stayed for every overtime.
And it did not affect my review.
Right.
Because it can't.
So they listened to every episode. They said, and they've stayed for every overtime. Right. That
says a lot.
Yeah. Because now you can go.
You can go. You don't have to be here. It's not mandatory.
Right, exactly.
Like anything else is.
Right, sure. Okay. All right. So I figured we'd do this top 10. I created a top 10 list.
Okay, for
overtime. And it's the top 10 fears of raising these rebellious aura colors.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with red, purple. So I got that one logic color. That's good. And then I got the purple turquoise.
Yeah.
Abby, right? So I'm putting it down as raising, purple turquoise daughters.
Right.
But you could do it for kids. You could substitute your kid into
substitute your aura colors.
Sure.
We'd love to hear your top 10 fears of raising your aura color children.
Right. And some of these I'm sure fit more than just the purple and the turquoise.
Right.
But all right, here we go.
Okay.
The first one, I've said this already at least 3 times on the podcast. Number 1, I have, and these are in no particular order, by the way.
Yeah.
Living in a van.
Yeah,
okay, this is one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
This would be the Abby. I don't think Bree is living in a van.
Bree's too bougie for that.
Yeah, the red is not going to let her live in a van.
The red, purple, they don't do that.
Right. But Abby, as we've discussed before,
right.
This purple turquoise color, and I've got a lot of research on this.
Yep.
There's a lot of purple turquoises in the discussion groups.
Yep.
And they really always confirm that at some point they are either going to live in a van or think about living in a van.
Yeah, and they tell you it's not a big deal.
Right. It's not a big deal to them.
Right.
But I do have my contingency plan, which is I am going to get a van and park it in the state park next to where they are.
Yes.
Where Abby is. So that is my plan for that. So my fear for that one has died down a little bit.
You'll GPS tracker the van.
Yes. I'm going to put the tracker on the van. Going to get the van.
Right.
It's probably going to be in Joshua Tree National Park. I'm going to find a spot next to Joshua Tree National Park. And that one. Okay.
So you have your plan for that, but that is a valid fear.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So the second one is festivals.
Oh, yeah.
Any sort of festival.
Yes.
Music, all these music festivals they have, Coachella nonsense, whatever that one is.
Yeah.
You know them. Right?
Turquoises,
Burning Man.
I'll
whatever.
tell you, the turquoises, they find the lesser known ones.
Yeah.
But the purples would go to anything.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I'm just, fearful maybe the next Woodstock happens.
Yeah.
And there's Abby.
Remember that Eclipse Festival we talked about for the Eclipse episode?
Right. I feel, now here's the thing with the two of them.
Yeah.
I feel Brie, being the red purple again.
Right.
I feel if she goes to one festival, she's not going to.
She's going to be like, these aren't good.
That's it.
Unless I'm VIP now.
Yeah, she's not going to go to the festival. She's not going to get into the crowd. It's all been there for 4 days and haven't showered or anything, and the smells that are probably around, and the crowd and everyone touching each other.
Right.
She's not going to do that.
Yeah,
she'll go one time, I think, and it'll be over.
Yeah.
Her festival experiences will be done.
If her blood sugar drops even a little bit, because as a red purple, she needs hers, 3 square a day.
Sure.
That's going to be a problem.
Right.
Whereas I feel like the purple turquoise child, she can fast.
Yeah, right.
I've seen her.
Yeah, it depends who she goes with.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
if she goes with the crew, she might be a festival goer.
Yeah, if the crew she's with is like, hey, we're eating these power bars all weekend. She's like, me too. This was great.
Yeah, and then she might even festival hop. So find an artist.
Yes.
Who I don't know who's big now that does all the festivals. Like let's say Noah Khan.
Right.
Noah. Wait, Noah Khan.
Chapel Road.
We have to get these names right.
Yeah.
You know how I found out that it's Noah Khan?
How?
And first of all, I've been fed this by Brie.
Yeah, this isn't our fault.
This is not my fault. Remember, it's overtime, people. Brie has been telling me for the last year it's Noah Kahan.
Yeah.
That's my favorite singer.
There's
Noah
an H
Kahan.
there.
So we were actually, I drive her to school every morning, and every day of the week we have a different genre of music. So on Fridays this year, it's AI DJ on Spotify.
Yeah. I hate the AI DJ.
Yeah, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to push your boundaries. I'm like, okay. Don't push my boundaries.
That's what he talks like. Yeah.
So he goes, the first song is by Noah Khan.
Oh.
And I'm like, huh? And then Bree's like, oh, it's AI. They got it wrong. And I'm like, no, AI probably got it right more. And then she's like, no. And then she goes and she starts looking up interviews that Noah Khan did.
Yeah.
And every person is pronouncing it Noah Khan. And she's like, fine. Like, she didn't admit it. It took her like about 6 interviews of hearing the name.
She's angry.
And then she's like, well, let me hear him say his name.
Yeah.
She didn't even believe it. She wouldn't even believe it. Her red would not let her believe that she was wrong on this. But we know it's Noah Khan.
Anyways.
All right. So I feel she goes to the Noah Khan festival, and that's it.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
I agree.
All right. Number 3. Okay, this is tattoos, piercings, anything of that nature done by your friends or someone, friend of a friend.
Yeah, purples and turquoises.
Right.
Please stop.
Non-professional. We're talking non-professional.
Yes.
Like you're not going into the tattoo parlor.
Right.
You are, having a night out and everyone says, let's get tattoos.
Right.
And you find yourself in a friend's basement.
Your friend has a tattoo gun.
Yes.
They're like, oh, I'm learning.
Yeah. Oh, just one line.
Just a little heart.
Yeah, just a heart.
Just a line.
Yeah.
Just a star.
Right.
No.
Right.
I had so many turquoise friends in high school, and I don't know, I think the fear of my parents probably kept me from getting a homemade tattoo. So,
Okay, so
I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to work on this one a little. I think I haven't done this yet enough. Like, like how I said, the living in the van, I got that planned out.
Yeah.
I have to prepare for this tattoo thing that could arise. I think I have some time on it.
Yeah. I'm more scared of the tattoo. But, Abby, the turquoise purple, was asking me about, I think they're called gauges. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, like you have an earring hole.
Right.
And then you make it bigger through like bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, I think they're called gauges.
Okay.
But like circles. And then it makes your ear hole big.
Yeah. She wants to do that.
No, she was curious.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, Abby, it doesn't go back. And then I pulled out the Dr. Pimple Popper videos on YouTube and I'm like, let's watch like this lady she's like, oh my God. I'm like, that's right. I'm like, listen, I'm just showing you what happens when you're my age and you don't want that anymore. And the doctor, I forget her real name, but Dr. Pimple Popper, she also fixes earlobes of people who don't want their saggy ear holes anymore.
All right.
All I do is educate.
Okay.
I'm just here showing you this part of it.
All right. I'm putting an asterisk next to that one because I'm really nervous about that one right now.
She was it was so random. I'm like making eggs and she's just like, hey, Mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
All right. Number 4 I have here. Joining a cult.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, like the man. Like one day she's like part of the future Manson family. I mean,
you just went dark.
Yeah, dark. Well, here's the thing. I don't think, and a lot of these right now so far are for Abby.
These are mostly Abby.
Yeah, Bree's not joining a cult.
It's the turquoise.
And that's why we've created a cult for her. We
have a cult.
We have a cult.
It's a jovial cult.
It's a jovial cult.
Safe.
Yes.
You don't have to do much to belong.
Yeah. Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family. We got about 12,000 people in the Facebook group.
All you got to do is be nice.
Just have to be nice.
Yeah.
Empathic.
That's nice. That's it.
Yeah. Just be nice.
Just be nice.
We created a cult for you.
No need to look
join
any further.
So I feel like once Abby, gets on social media in 20 years from now,
boy.
we'll let her into the Facebook group. Yeah. Bree will not want to join.
But the cult thing, anytime I watch any documentary about any cult, it's the turquoises are like in there. That's a fear.
That's a fear. That's a huge fear.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5, I have down falling for schemes such as like the MLM schemes, anything of that nature.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of, take your money and the pyramid, the Ponzi schemes, whatever, anything like that.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I could see Bree.
Purples.
I could see Bree more on that one.
Yeah, a lot of purples in those.
Yeah, I can see that. The red purple, like she's thinking she's going to make it big quick.
Right.
Selling, I don't know, whatever they sell.
Who knows?
They
have all sorts of weird ones.
Weird ones, right. So I can see Bree trying to make it big on that and then realizing this is ridiculous and then she's been scammed and then
she'll get mad about it.
She'll get mad about it.
Right.
Double down. And then be done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that one's more for Bree, actually.
Yeah. But those infiltrate the purples a lot, those MLM schemes.
Okay. Number 6. This one was inspired by you.
Oh.
Having to tell their boss that they quit. So there I am making the phone call to their boss to tell them that they went off and are now living in a van, or they're just not coming back again.
Yeah, my dad did that a few times for me in early jobs.
He called up and said,
Megan's not coming in anymore.
She
has to, but she's not coming in. Not.
Have a nice day. So I'm going to have those awkward conversations.
Yeah.
Because in a way, it's wrong.
It's so wrong.
You should probably finish your shift.
You need to give 2 weeks notice.
Right,
it's
give
terrible.
your 2 weeks notice. So,
I'm not condoning it. So, it was horrible. I feel awful about it.
Okay, so
I wouldn't do that now.
So I have to prepare my red, blue.
Yeah.
To be able to do this. I feel those could be some tough calls. I might make you make those calls.
Well, I would probably, depending on the situation, be like, unless there was like something torrid going on. I would be like, you got to give notice. We're not doing that. That's mean. A conversation somebody probably should have had with me.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Number 7.
Right.
I have drinking raw milk. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I don't even know how that got down there.
You turquoises.
They drink raw milk.
Okay. There's like, and extend that to all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's the unpasteurized like raw milk thing. You better trust that flipping cow and where it's coming from, but they all love like the hormone free, unpasteurized. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Just be careful. Like, be careful.
Be careful.
But I can see.
Know the cow.
Like, don't get it off, like, Facebook Marketplace, okay? Like, I don't know. I personally wouldn't, so I don't know the best practices to go about it, but just be careful. And these are more conversations I have to have with my turquoise kid.
Well, how about, like, anything raw? Like, you know what, like Rocky when he drinks, like, the 7 eggs in the morning before his run. That's
course.
Bad, that's bad too, right?
Yeah. Well, these are conversations. All right. So difference between purple and turquoises. With a purple, I feel like, don't do that. Why? You could get really sick. Okay. My turquoise kid, don't do that. Why? You could get really sick. How? Okay. Now I'm looking up the research, and we have to go, which is actually smart of her, but it takes her a lot of convincing, and she doesn't believe me. And then she really wants to know. And then, like that. And it's like, just do your due diligence. You guys with the raw milk.
Okay.
Just be careful.
Okay. Number 8. And this one, I mean, this probably terrifies every single person, every parent on the planet.
Yeah.
Have them drive me.
Oh, so, well, that's everybody.
Yeah, that's everyone.
Yeah.
Bree is, she got her learner's permit.
Oh, God.
She's 15. She hasn't asked yet to go in a car.
She has me.
Yeah, I asked her, like, hey, you want to go out on a Sunday? She's like, no.
Yeah, I think she's conflicted.
She's conflicted, which is good. Keep the confliction going. This terrifies me more than anything. I don't like any driving with anybody.
Yeah, you probably aren't the one to teach her.
Yeah, I mean, I always have to drive, no matter what I have to drive.
No, I know. You like to drive.
If you don't, I don't know if I let anyone drive me.
I don't know. I think Abby might be a good. I can see her.
I can see Abby being okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see Abby.
Hey, turquoises, are you guys good drivers? That's a good question.
Yeah, I can see the turquoises being good drivers.
Yeah. What do you think it is? Like,
because I'm just comparing to Bree. Bree might be too nervous.
Okay.
The turquoises might have a sense of calm.
Yeah, they're chill. They're more chill.
You do need to have some sort of sense of calm.
Yes. I would say, like, turquoises have an interesting logic and I don't know if they're just blended into it or they're just kind of like rising above a lot of chatter or something with their vibe. But yeah, I can see that. I can see them being good drivers.
All right. Number 9.
No offense, purple.
Number
with
10.
all your music playing and your 8 alerts going off at once and your fuzzy steering wheel.
Well, with Bree, I think I can see her just getting, like, too angry and then, like, and that's what does it. Like, she gets, like, real angry, and she put her foot on the brake when she thought it was the gas or vice versa.
Oh, my God.
And then she's like, what?
That's maturity.
Yeah. All right. Number 9. I think this one may be specific to Abby joining the circus.
Oh, she's real bendy.
She's real bendy. So we don't want her to go off and just join the traveling show.
Well, you're following, like, Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah,
she's on a train.
Right.
She's living on a train. There we go. Barnum and Bailey.
Barnum and Bailey.
And Abby on an elephant.
This is me. All right.
This is me. Look out.
Here I come. Yeah. All right. Last one. This is for the fans that have been with us for a very long time. You will understand this. If you haven't been with us so long, you're like, what is he talking about? Number 10. Having an Amish twin flame.
Oh, yeah.
I have myself an Amish twin flame. His name is Jebediah.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned him in a while because I'm trying to not put him into the universe.
It's a touchy subject.
He comes around like twin flames do.
White Millet.
White Millet. Yes, that is his favorite crystal.
You forgot about that one.
I did forget about that. MIR. That's for the people who've been with us forever.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is. MIR. But if you remember MIR, then you've been listening to this podcast way too long.
I forget what
MIR.
It stands for.
Oh my God. It's
mind.
It's like when facing the aliens, you have to have MIR.
Mind interference, like
resources. Our resources. I think
mental?
Is it method?
Method?
Like some like some
forget.
Like, like you have to have something like, you have to pee in a jar.
Yeah.
And you can throw it at them. Things like that.
Well, because you found out that the aliens don't like liquids.
They don't like liquids. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to throw at them like a liquid.
Yes.
That's not water.
That's not water.
Right.
That's what. Yeah. And I was going through my pee in the bushes phases at that time.
Oh my God, that's old.
Yeah.
Wow, you just went off.
It is overtime. We better end this.
All right. This podcast is for you and about you, and we're so glad you spent some time with us today.
Hello, podcast fans. If you're looking for a new podcast, if you enjoy articles, books, pop culture, and hilarity, try listening to the Brain Candy Podcast.
That's right. The Brain Candy Podcast has over 500 episodes of educational hilarity to satiate your learning needs. Just search for the Brain Candy Podcast on your podcast app or click the link in the show notes.